Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramartanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Pranam everyone. Namasarvebhyaha. So today we are going to do the last or the final 11 shlokas of the 6th chapter, shloka number 37 to 47. So far in the 6th chapter, we have talked about how Ashtanga Yoga progresses, how the spiritual aspirant, he has begun his spiritual journey with Karma Yoga, and after reaching a certain level of purification, self-control, etc. on that path, he has finally decided to do Dhyana Yoga. So the process of Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga is described here in the 6th chapter. Of course, it is not described to the same extent to which Patanjali describes it in his Ashtanga Yoga Paddhati, which is presented in his sutras, the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, which are available today as a text. And there, the Ashtanga Yoga process is described in great detail. In the Bhagavad-gita, Sri Bhagavan's interest is not in going into all the details of the Ashtanga Yoga process, but rather touching upon the essential elements, such as control over the senses, purification of the consciousness, and eventually establishing oneself in samadhi, where one is in pure consciousness, one's consciousness is fully developed, and then focusing or turning that consciousness towards him, to Sri Bhagavan. So in essence, the Bhagavad-gita, if you want to concisely explain what the Bhagavad-gita is teaching us, you can describe it in just 3 words. Connect with me. Okay, it's as if Sri Bhagavan is telling us, connect with me. So what is meant by connecting with him? He says, I am the source of everything. And, everything comes from me. Everything rests in me. And those who are having a loving relationship with me, they experience that eternal life and pure happiness. So essentially, the Gita is it's a book of teaching us how to connect with him. The word yoga is the process of connecting with him. In the Gita, that process is described in terms of karma, karma yoga, in terms of jnana, jnana yoga, karmana yoga. Through karma yoga, it's called karma yoga. Through jnana, jnanena yoga, jnana yoga. Dhyanena yoga, through dhyana, that is Ashtanga yoga. And then bhaktya yoga, through bhakti, connecting with Sri Bhagavan through bhakti. So in the 6th chapter, now we're going to go forward and see what conversation has taken place between them and how it concludes. The 37th shloka of the 6th chapter is as follows. Arjuna uvacha ayatihi shraddhayo peto yogachalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kamgatim krishna gacchati. If we recollect, just before this shloka, Sri Bhagavan had told Arjuna in response to another doubt that he had asked. He had asked the question that, oh Krishna, you have told me that I should be equanimous towards everybody. I should not have any partiality. I should treat my friend and enemy both equally. I should look at everybody equally. So that mental state, that pure consciousness is not easy to achieve, not easy to practice. So how do I do that? How do I control my mind, bring my mind to do that, to think like that? Then Sri Bhagavan responded, Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihhyate. By repeated practice and by the discipline of vairagya, detachment, one can achieve that state. So having said that, Arjuna is now having another doubt. He says, okay, that's interesting, but what if somebody is not able to achieve that? You have told me that one has to repeatedly practice, and you also said that This is a process that requires a heavy amount of commitment. Now, let's say somebody has begun the process with Shraddha. So, ayatihi Shraddhayopetah. Shraddhayopetah means he started the process with Shraddha. But ayatihi yoga chalita manasa. Ayatihi means yatihi means one who is engaged in practice, one who is a practitioner, a sadhaka. Yata, the word yat in Sanskrit is about endeavour, effort, doing effort, endeavour. Yatate means one who puts in effort. So ayatihi means one who is not putting in effort. Why? Because yoga chalita manasa, his mind has now deviated from the path of yoga that he was doing. Yoga chalita means he was doing yoga for some time and now it has gone away from yoga. So he is a person who started yoga with Shraddha, with conviction, but something happened and he deviated from that. And owing to that, aprapya yoga samsiddhim, he has not attained, he does not attain the perfection that yoga promises to give. He doesn't attain that. And he dies. The life gets over. Of course, everybody dies at some point of time. Life is always, nobody is eternal here in this samsara. Everybody dies. So he does not achieve that perfection before his death. So, kam gatim Krishna gacchati. What is his gati? What is the situation? What is the destination that he achieves? So Arjuna's doubt begins with this. He says, "Oh Krishna, what is the fate of one who, with conviction, practices the path of yoga for some time, but subsequently deviates from the path and does not achieve the desired perfection?" This obviously is a very, very important question, and it is not completed. The question continues. Kachinno bhaya vibhrashtaha, chinnabhramiva nashyati, apratishto mahabaho, vimudho brahmanah pati. He says kachin. The word kachit in Sanskrit is used when you have to express a statement as a question. You're making a statement, but you want that statement to be a question. You're actually asking a question, but you're stating it like that. So kachit. Na ubhaya vibhrashtaha means ubhaya. Ubhaya means two paths. One is the path of sakama karma, that is the basic path that everybody follows. Everybody is by default materialistic in this world. Everybody wants material enjoyment. And in the Vedic society, in the society which follows dharma, that material enjoyment is obtained through the Veda. The Veda is the process by which we obtain our material desires. Dharma's predominant portion of the Veda, Vedic dharma, is how to satisfy our different desires by following our respective karmas. Okay, the following karma, we get punya. And by accumulating punya, we get a better birth in future. But even before we go to a future birth, there are processes in the Veda by which we can achieve something in the more short term. Like let's say we want some wealth, we want to have a particular kind of spouse, or we want some position in life, like becoming a king, or some position over some enemy, we want to defeat an enemy. These kind of materialistic goals, the Veda gives us processes by which different kinds of yajnas can be performed, and these goals can be achieved even in a given lifetime. So predominantly Veda is materialistic sakama karma. That's called sakama karma, and a person who does that is called a karmi. Karmi is a person who follows the Veda for fulfilling material desires. Okay, that is not spiritual. So that is the default path. But now, in the Bhagavad-gita, you are inspiring us to become spiritual, leave that materialism aside, reject the Veda. The Gita rejects the rest of the Veda and says, follow Vedanta, which says that this samsara is not the place to be. You have to get out of this samsara and attain mukti, right? So you have now taken us to the path of yoga. So two paths, the path of sakama karma and the path of yoga. Now a person who leaves the sakama karma path and comes to yoga, but fails in yoga, he is neither here nor there. He's on neither path now, right? So you convinced him by giving instructions like the Bhagavad-gita, you have convinced him to leave his path and you brought him here. But now, because of his own weaknesses, he's not able to do what you asked him to do. So what happens to him? Chinnabhramiva nashyati. Does he... So Arjuna is using the metaphor of a cloud. Let's say there is a large cloud, and because of the movement of the wind and so on, a small portion of that cloud comes out of the big cloud. small portion separates and it's now moving in the sky. And slowly, because it's very small in size, it's slowly dissolving into the sky. It's becoming thinner and thinner. It's sort of evaporating or dissolving, dissipating. And he's saying, does it become like this? Apratishto, it doesn't join another cloud. If it goes and joins another cloud, then it has some shelter. It's now become part of a bigger cloud. But let's say that doesn't happen, so it just dissipates. Apratishta, that's the meaning of apratishta. It means he's nowhere. Vimudha brahmanapati. So such a person, he is a vimudha. Vimudha means one who is like a fool. A fool is a person who doesn't have a proper path to follow in this context. He's neither here nor there. You can imagine a person like that. Let's say somebody, for example, they were doing a good job. Okay, we have many people who are in good career, let's say for till the age of 40, 45. And then they developed a desire to do a PhD. Okay. So they said, okay, let me do a full-time PhD, give up the job. Okay, good career. Then everybody comes and says, hey, what are you doing? You're earning a good salary. You're now reached a good position like a general manager. If you give up your position now, then what will happen to you? If you do your PhD, then what will you become? Will they give you back this job? Then you, no, I'll do my PhD and I'll become a prof because I'm tired of this. I'm sick of this job, corporate career, all competition, everybody is backbiting everyone. So we have many students who think like that. They come and some of them end up doing a EFPM. They don't want to give up. But some of them take the bold step of coming to FPM. Okay, we have students who say that, no, I'm sick of it now. It's okay if I don't get that salary also. I'm happy with a smaller salary, but I want to really do my PhD. Now, suppose, imagine a situation, that person who has boldly committed himself to a PhD, halfway through the PhD, suddenly feels that, okay, this is too much for me. I have to read so many papers, make notes, form a framework, and identify variables, write hypotheses, find data, test the data. It doesn't work out. Halfway through that, he realizes, oh, this is not really what I thought was a PhD. I thought just by joining this program, 4 years if I spend, I'll get a diploma. No, now this is much bigger than what I thought. And then decides, maybe I can go back to the corporate world and then get a job of some kind. And then again, the doubt mind says, oh, how will you go back? Who will give you that job? And even if you go back, you will not get the same kind of job because now 4 years have passed. So imagine this person is now nowhere. He's neither here nor there. He doesn't have the conviction or the strength to complete his PhD, nor does he have the strength to go back and resume his corporate career. So Vimudha, that's the person who is in a Vimudha state. Of course, nobody who is attending this lecture is in that state. I'm very happy about that. And we rarely have people like that. Fortunately, we don't have many people like that. So people who come to PhD, they struggle, but they complete their PhD. And we have the system to ensure that also. So I gave that example just to explain what is meant by being nowhere. Okay. Here, Brahmanapati. Brahmanapati means the spiritual path, the path to Brahman. That's what we've been talking about all this time. So Arjuna is asking, what happens to such a person, oh Krishna? Oh Mahabaho, does such a person who is neither on the path of mundane sakama karma, nor on the path of yoga, and thereby bewildered and unsettled on the path to spiritual realization, perish like a fragmented cloud that has detached from a larger crowd? Okay, so here the word chinna abram. Abram in Sanskrit means cloud. Chinna means split. Etanme samshayam Krishna chetum harasya seshataha. Twadanyah samshayasyasya chetana upapadyate. Na hi upapadyate. Okay. So etanme, this is my samshayam, doubt, O Krishna. And you ought to remove this doubt. Because you are the one by whose instruction I have got this doubt. So please, now it's your responsibility to remove this doubt. Aseshataha means comprehensively, without a remainder. After you remove this doubt, there should be no doubt left. Completely clear this doubt. Tvadanyaha, other than you, samshayasya of this doubt, cheta, destroyer, nahi upapadyate, I cannot find anyone. I can't find anyone other than you who can possibly destroy this doubt. Especially now, I'm standing here in this battlefield on this chariot and everybody is looking at us. So where will I go to clear this doubt? Now you have brought me to this position, giving me so many concepts about yoga and this and that. And now I can't find anyone. You have to answer. Oh Krishna, you must destroy this doubt of mine comprehensively. Other than you, none can be found who can possibly destroy this doubt. So now how does Krishna destroy this doubt? Let's see. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyanakrit Kaschit Durgatim Tata Gacchati. So Krishna, he is not disturbed by this doubt. He already has an answer because he's all knowledgeable, right? And he has figured it out. When he's proposing a path, he also has all the solutions required to execute that path. So he says, O Partha, Naiva Iha, Na Iha. Iha means here, in this existence that you are currently experiencing. Na Amutra. Amutra means in the next world, in the spiritual world, or in your next birth. It can be understood in both ways. Either in your spiritual existence, which you may attain in the future, or in whatever existence you attain in your next birth, Amutra. Naiva iha na amutra, neither in this birth nor in the next birth, vinashastasya vidyate, will there be a destruction of this person. There will be no destruction of this person either in this birth or in the next birth or in any future birth. Nahi kalyanakrit kaschit. Now he gives a principle. He says, Nahi kalyanakrit. Kalyanakrit means one who does good things. Kalyanam, that which is good, auspicious. Kalyanakrit is a person who does good things. Nahi kalyanakrit kaschit durgatim. Of any kind, a durgati. Durgati means a bad outcome of any kind. Tata gacchati, achieves. Oh, my dear child. Tata. Here the word tata is used. The tata word in Sanskrit is used in two ways. One is it refers to somebody who is very elder. Tata, right? Like we have a colleague here, my colleague. His name is Raghuram. It's written as Tata Raghuram, right? We pronounce it as Tata Raghuram. We think it's associated with the Tata group here. No. Word Tata actually is a Sanskrit word. Tata means elder, somebody respectable, venerable. That's one meaning of Tata. The other meaning is the exact other direction. That is somebody who is a child. When you want to address a small child with a lot of affection, okay, you can use this word Tata in that case. So Krishna is addressing Arjuna in that sense. He can see the anxiety in his mind. He's totally stressed out. As it is, he began this whole conversation in a stressed out state. Arjuna was totally lost, confused, did not want to fight after coming there and getting ready to fight. And now Krishna is trying to resolve that, but new doubts are coming. So Arjuna is totally stressed out. So he says, my dear child, don't worry. Nothing will happen to that person. No destruction will happen. Because anybody who does any good in this world will never attain a bad outcome. Oh Partha, there is no destruction for such a person, either with regard to his material existence or his progress to the other spiritual existence. Oh dear child, one who does good never attains a bad destination. Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga bhrashto vijayate. So he says, then what happens to him? Says prapya punya kritam lokan. So after this birth, assuming that he has not succeeded in achieving spiritual perfection through yoga, he has deviated after some time. He first attains the place, the same existence that people who do a lot of punya, okay, people who are following the Veda and doing a lot of good karma, they're doing all their karma systematically. They are materialistic. They want a good future life. So this person who has now come to the spiritual path but then fallen down, he will attain that same existence. He will attain the loka which people who do a lot of punya attain. And ushitva shashvati samaha, he will reside there for a very long time. Samaha means years or long periods. Samaha means a period of time, typically used for a year. Okay, so shashvati samaha means very long period of time. Ushitva means having resided there for a very long period of time. Then what happens to him? So that is the first thing that happens. He first takes a birth in a loka or a existence, a form of existence where he has a very good life. Punya loka. It's a place where a lot of people with punya are present. And then after he has a death in that life, Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe. Geha means house, household. Griha or griham. So he takes birth in the house of either Shuchinam, people who are Shuchi. Shuchi means people who are clean, people who are saintly, people who are pure. Okay, a saintly family, a good-natured people who don't commit pap, people who don't do bad things. In such a house, he takes birth. Or and/or, you can say a family which could also be Srimatam, means wealthy. family with a lot of money, aristocratic, very rich family. Okay, like let's say Ambani's family, something like that, with a lot of money. So where money is not a concern at all. Okay, so either in the family of people who are very saintly natured, or in the family of people who are very wealthy, or both, family which is both saintly natured and very wealthy, yoga brashta abhijayate. Person who is yoga brashta means person who has fallen down from the path of yoga, abhijayate, takes birth. Okay, so this is what happens. As soon as he deviates from the path of yoga, he may live some normal life like others. But after this birth, he takes birth in a family of, where people have done punya, and then takes birth in a family of pure saintly natured persons or in a wealthy family. Athava, alternatively, if that doesn't happen, then yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam. Etadhi durlabhataram loke janma yat idrisham. Etadhi durlabhataram loke janma yat idrisham. Athava, if his birth is not in that good-natured family or in the family of wealthy people, then he gets an even superior birth. This is after that birth, or second birth. This is the third one. Yoginam eva kule means in the family of people who are already doing yoga. He's born to a yogic family. They already are all on that spiritual path, already pure. And he says, etadhi durlabhataram. But this birth, which I'm referring to now in this shloka, is more rare. Durlabhataram. The tarap pratyaya is used here. Durlabham means rare. Durlabhataram. More rare compared to what I said earlier in the previous shloka. This kind of birth is more rare. Alternatively, he takes birth in a family of wise and intelligent yogis. Such a birth in this world is certainly more rare than that previously prescribed. Tatra tam buddhi sanyogam labhate paurvadehikam yatate cha tato bhuyaha samsiddhav kurunandana. So Vishwanath Chakravarti in his commentary, and I think Baladeva also, they say that the first shloka, the 41st shloka, where saintly people or rich people, that family, that shloka refers to a yogi who has only made a little progress on the path of yoga. That is, he left his material life and everything through karma yoga. He got purified, then did some yoga, but did only a little bit, and then lost his motivation, gave up, and went back to his normal life. Such a person takes birth there. But this shloka, 42nd shloka, which we are seeing on the screen now, describes a person who has made significant progress in Ashtanga Yoga and maybe reached the stage of Samadhi and done Samadhi for a long time and then fallen down. Such a person takes birth in the family of yogis. And then what happens? Tatratam buddhi sanyogam labhate paurvadehikam. There, his intelligence is drawn, he says, to what he did in his earlier life. Paurvadehikam means the activities of the earlier life. Yatate cha tato bhuyaha samsiddhav kurunandana. And then again he endeavours. So he may not remember the past life, but he finds that in that life he is naturally attracted to the process of yoga. He wants to connect with God. He's not interested in material life at all. Okay, we do sometimes hear about people like that at a very young age. They're attracted, they're not interested in anything material. Their parents try to tell them, if you don't do this, then you will not be able to earn money. You will not be able to live a safe life, a secure life. You have to earn, you have to work hard. But they are simply not interested. They want to hear Harikatha, or they want to, go towards people who are meditating. They're drawn to that. We do see people like that, right? At a very young age, they want to go become a sannyasi. They go and join some institution like Ramakrishna Mission or any other. There are so many good institutions today which attract spiritually minded people, and they want to go and live there. They just want to, and they are not disturbed at all. That doesn't disturb them. And so this, Sri Bhagavan says, is a result of, nobody has forced them. I remember in my, when I was studying in IIT Kanpur, my BTech, I had a senior, Shreesh Jadhav, and he was All India rank 2 in the IIT entrance in his batch, by 1 year senior to me. And he was extremely brilliant, extremely brilliant. He was so brilliant that I remember by the time he finished his BTech, his professors were saying that this guy should be given a PhD for the assignments he has submitted. He was so good in his studies. And So what he did was, after doing BTech, he naturally entered into PhD in IIT Kanpur itself. He was a 10-pointer, means his CQ out of a scale of 10 was 10 out of 10. Like we have 8-point scale in XLRI, they have 10-point scale in IIT. So he entered into it. He didn't want to go abroad. He entered into his PhD and finished his PhD in a few years there itself. And after doing that, he joined Ramakrishna Mission as a monk. And he's still there as a monk. Sometimes we get WhatsApp messages from our batchmates giving his photo and some speech or something he's done. Somebody went and met him. So I remember when he was there, he was fully involved in spiritual activities right from the time I first saw him. He was not like anybody else. Normally, students are like students, right? Doing different things, sometimes going to parties, enjoying, drinking, whatever, all kinds of student activities. But he was not interested in the typical student activities. Although he was very active among students, he was not aloof. He was very active. He would conduct organizational lectures. He would call Ramakrishna Mission saints, or he would be selling books of Ramakrishna Mission. He would be sometimes counseling students who are depressed. He would counsel. Everybody liked him because he was nature. He would be freely available for counseling. So spiritual nature. So where did it come from? He's just 17 years old when you join for BTech, right? Where is the chance to do yoga before that, right? You're only studying in school. So that is Paurvadeyika. You can clearly see that nobody has forced him. If he wanted to go to America, American universities would roll out the red carpet for him. If he wanted to join some big organization, they would welcome him, right? With that kind of academic qualification. But he's not interested, just interested in becoming a sannyasi. And he was very happy. And now he's teaching. If you see he's got a website of his own. And I recently went and saw what he does there. He's written some articles and all on Vedanta philosophy and everything. And he's also teaching. He teaches whatever he learned, the courses he did in IIT Kanpur. He teaches those kind of courses now in the Ramakrishna Mission University, and there they have so many colleges of their group. He teaches there to the students. Many of the monks also teach there. So this is what happens, and this is the result of past janma. So, O Kurunandana, in either case, he obtains a connection with the intelligence that he had in his previous birth, and thereafter endeavors again for perfection. Purvabhyasena tenaiva hriyate hyavashopi saha jigyasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. So Shri Bhagavan concludes that answer to that doubt by saying that by his purvabhyasa, by the practices he has done in his previous life, tenaiva, by those practices only, hriyate means akrishyate, he is attracted. He is attracted to these avashaha. Vashaha means by compulsion. Avashaha means without any compulsion. Okay, there's no compulsion, but naturally, very naturally, he is attracted to those things. And he says, Jigyasurapi yogasya, because it's so attractive that even a person, yoga is such an attractive thing that even a person who is just inquisitive about it, okay, he may not be initially feeling an attraction, but he just wants to know what is it that they are doing? Why is it that this guy has gone to Ramakrishna Mission? What is he doing there? What does he do? He seems to be happy. It's not gone there because of some frustration or something. So, Jigyasurapi Shabda Brahmati Vartate. Shabda Brahma refers to Veda. And Veda here is referred to as a book which is giving us happy material life, how to be happy in the material life. But Ativartate, he goes beyond that. Even a person who is a little curious about yoga, he is able to go beyond what the Veda is teaching us. He is naturally and without compulsion drawn to yoga by virtue of its practice in his past life. Even one who is inquisitive about yoga transcends the saka ma-karmi, materialistic activities described in the Veda. Prayatna adhyatamanustu yogi samshuddha kilvishaha aneka janma samsiddha tato yati paramgatim. So he says by repeated practice, prayatna. So he says that, of course, after doing all this, he has again come back to yoga, but just because he has come back again to yoga doesn't mean he will get perfection. He has to keep doing effort. Effort is involved. Prayatnad yatamana. One who has to keep endeavoring. And then yogi, samshuddha kilvishaha. Once he reaches a stage where all his impurities are removed, all the desires. Okay, 6 types of impurities the Shastra says we have in us. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Madha, Matsarya. Kama means the desires to enjoy, not only sexual desire, but any kind of desire to enjoy this material existence, a desire for power, a desire for fame, a desire for name, anything, any kind of material desire is kama. Krodha, anger. Anger quickly comes because somebody insults us, somebody says something not so appreciative of us, or somebody denies us something that we ought to have got. In different ways, anger comes. Sometimes, even before that thing happens, in anticipation that that will happen, we become angry and we start getting disturbed. Kama, Krodha, Moha. Moha is Kama, Krodha, Lobha first. Lobha is greed, intense greed for different things. Moha, delusion. Delusion in the spiritual context is to think that this matter is eternal, to think that I'm going to, I will never die. I will eternally exist in this birth like this. So I'll keep building my, accumulating, right? Moha. Madha is intoxication. Madha is that you see the excitement you see, especially in people who are young, unintelligent, get excited about, a little bit of power, a little bit of money, a little bit of power comes to somebody, they lose their sense. They start doing things which doesn't make any logical thing and harm themselves eventually. You see, sometimes you see sons of politicians or young politicians behaving like that. Mada, Matsarya. Matsarya is envy, hatred, jealousy towards others. So these are the 6 basic impurities from which everything else expands in this world. So yogi is a person who is samshuddha kilpisha. He is completely free from all of these 6. Aneka janma samsiddha tato yati parangatim. So after several births of being purified in this manner, he attains the paragati. Paramgatim means that supreme destination, that spiritual destination, spiritual abode. That yogi who sincerely endeavors with due effort is cleansed of all impurities, becomes perfect after multiple births, and attains the supreme destination. Tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi, jnanibhyopi adhiko mataha, jnanibhyopi mato adhikaha, karmibhyaschadhiko yogi, tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. So he says, now he's the last 2 shlokas of the 6th chapter. He says, the yogi that I have been talking about, okay, he began with karma yoga, became purified, then came to the process of ashtanga yoga. Or maybe some people take the path of jnana and they try to connect with me through jnana and realize me as Brahman. Whichever way, this yogi, the person who is trying to connect with me, yogi means a person who is trying to connect with me, he is superior to the tapasvi. Tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi. So yogi is superior to the tapasvi. So who is a tapasvi then? Okay, tapas means in Sanskrit austerity, performance of austerity. So austerity means what? Austerity means putting oneself in a uncomfortable situation voluntarily. Okay, that is what is tapasya in the Shastra. Not when you are forced to be. That is also called austerity. Let's say, for example, your company goes bankrupt and then you are asked to leave because the company cannot pay you anymore. So that we see once in a while happening, right? Especially IT companies, suddenly 5,000 people are left out. So that is an austerity that is forced upon the person. That's not referred to here. Here, tapasvis are people who voluntarily take up austerity even when they don't have to, because through performing austerity, they achieve certain goals, particularly material goals. Okay, they attain. So the performance of austerity, simple way, in simple language, destroys the pap that we have done in the past. The performing austerity, let's say we have done some very bad pap and we are suffering for that. So somebody advises us, okay, now the one way to overcome that is by doing this tapasya, this vrata. Do this vrata for so many days and then your pap will go. And then you will also get punya. In addition to burning your papa, you will also accumulate some punya with which you can get a better result in the future, a better life in the future. Okay, so one, for example, in the Shastra, different types of tapasyas, vratas are described. I'll give you one simple example. There's one vrata called the Chandrayana vrata. It's called Chandrayanam. I don't know if you've heard of it before. The Chandrayana vrata is considered as one of the most, severe vratas. And it's often talked about. It's a well-known vrata that people do. I think people even now do that. In the Chandrayana vrata, what a person does, he begins on the day after the Purnima. Purnima is a full moon day, right? Purnima Tithi is when the moon is full. We had 2 days back, there was Vaishak Purnima. So after Purnima, what happens? The moon becomes smaller and smaller, right? At least the way the moon doesn't become smaller by itself. It appears smaller to us. In our vision, it becomes smaller. So as the moon becomes smaller and smaller in our vision, it goes through 15 tithis before it becomes what is called as Amavasya. The 15th tithi after Purnima is called Amavasya. In Amavasya day, we cannot see the moon at all. It is called no moon or new moon in English, right? So this vrata follows the appearance of the moon over a period of 2 pakshas. The first paksha is called the Krishna paksha, when the moon is becoming smaller and smaller. And then after Amavasya, what happens? The moon starts becoming visible again and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually the next Purnima comes after 15 more tithis. That's called the Shukla paksha. So during the Krishna paksha, what this person does, primarily this is focused around the eating habit. But along with the eating habit, the eating practice, which I'm going to describe now, the person who's doing this also has to do a number of other types of accompanying activities like yajnas, the homas, and worships, different types of worships and prayers he has to perform. But the eating part is like this. The eating part, on the first day, he has 15 mouthfuls of food. Okay, he prepares food in a particular manner, it's prescribed in the Veda, and divides that in different portions and then identifies that quantity which will be equal to 15 mouthfuls of his consumption. And it's described that the mouthful should be, it's not like one mouthful is this much. So you can cleverly cheat the system. You can't cheat the system. So the mouthful is defined as the quantity that you can keep on three of your fingers, these 3 fingers. That much quantity is called one mouthful. So 15 times that. Okay, he starts with that. And that is the quantity you eat on the first day, 15 mouthfuls of food. So the next day, the moon has become one portion smaller, right? The moon is going to become smaller in 15 days, 15 tithis. So it's got 15 stages to it. So the next day, you have only 14 mouthfuls of food. The third day, you have only 13 mouthfuls of food. Then 12, 11. So like this, on the 15th day, how much will you have? 0, right? 15 minus 15 is 0. So on the Amavasya day, you don't have any food at all. So you start with 15 mouthfuls of food, where one mouthful is about this much. So the first day, it feels like you've eaten something, but only once. Only once on that day, you have 15 mouthfuls. Then the second day, it becomes 14. Third day, it becomes 13. And the rest of the day, you're fasting, nothing else. And on the 15th day, nothing at all. And then again, 16th day, when the Shukla Paksha begins, you have one mouthful of food, then 2 mouthfuls. And again, on the Purnima day, you have 15 mouthfuls. And then you first feed all the, the Brahmanas, all the other saintly people, etc., etc. And after you have fed them and done puja and everything, then you come back to having a normal meal. This is called Chandrayana Vrata, and it's described as a very, very severe Vrata, because accompanying this are so many other things, like the way you should take your bath, the way you should offer respects to others. A lot of activities involved. It's not like you can, sleep on the bed with, turn on the TV and put on the AC, and so 15 mouthfuls. So that's okay, because I'm lying on the bed. I can manage. किसी न किसी तरह से manage कर लेंगे. So it's not like you can't manage. You have to do a lot of other work along with this. So Chandrayana Vrata. This is called the life of a tapasvi. Tapasvis do different kinds of tapasya like this, by which they burn their pap and accumulate punya. So Shri Bhagavan is saying, tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi. This yoga that I am telling you may not involve this kind of tapasya, but the yogi's path is superior to this path. And then he says, Jnanibhyo api mato adhika. Those who follow the path of Jnana Yoga, which doesn't involve this kind of austerity. It does involve its own kinds of vratas and so on. But there, the focus is on attaining Brahma, that supreme knowledge of Brahma, oneself as spiritual and so on. This yogi that I am describing now is superior to that Jnana Yogi also. Karmibhyas chadiko yogi, the saka ma-karmi. I just described the saka ma-karmi who follows the materialistic path of the Veda. This yogi is superior to that also. Karmibhyas chadiko yogi, tasmad yogi bhava Arjuna. Therefore, please take this path of yoga. Please connect with me. The yogi is superior to one who pursues the path of severe austerities, to the one who pursues realization of Brahman, and to the one who pursues sakama karma, materialistic activities described in the Veda. Therefore, become a yogi, O Arjuna. And now he concludes the 6th chapter. He says, Yoginam api sarvesham matgatena antaratmanam shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mat. He says, even superior to that yogi is that person who is madgataha. Madgataha means one who has gone into me. Okay, so I'll explain what that means. What is meant by going into me? Antaratmana, through his consciousness. Antaratma, through his inner being. His inner being is completely absorbed in me. Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam, one who worships me, serves me with shraddha, with devotion. Sa me yukta tamo mataha. Among all the people I have described, he is the person who is the best situated. Okay. Even superior to all types of yogis is the one whose consciousness is residing in me. In my opinion, one who engages in my service with conviction, shraddha, is the best situated. Okay, this shloka is the last shloka of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, and it has a very significant position here. Because the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad-gita, that's 1/3 of Bhagavad-gita, is devoted to predominantly explaining the path of karma yoga and how to conclude that path into perfection by becoming a jnana yogi or a dhyana yogi. The second set of 6 chapters, the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad-gita, 7th chapter onwards, is predominantly about bhakti. Bhakti is devoting oneself to Sri Bhagavan in a personal relationship, understanding him as a person and relating with him like we relate with another person, right? In love and affection. And that is bhakti. So this shloka is considered the sutra for the next 6 shlokas. This is the conclusion of the karma yoga portion and the connection to the next 6 chapters of Bhagavad-gita, where bhakti is spoken about. So you can see essentially this shloka is talking about bhakti. It says bhakti is superior to all other forms of yoga. Through bhakti, one develops realization of God, Bhagavan, as a person in his full aspect, in his full nature. Unlike the other parts of yoga, where you realize God in a more indirect or impersonal or in a more distant manner. The difference is not very difficult to understand. It's just like, let's say there is, let's say, for example, there is the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of India, okay, who's the topmost person in the judicial system in the country, the Chief Justice of India, the CJI. Now, he's a very powerful person. He's a very intelligent person, very educated person, and a person of very high respect in society. So naturally, most people will approach that person only with some distance. Most people will not go put their hand around his shoulder and say, hi, how are you? You can't talk to him like that. Okay, they will call him your lordship. First of all, even to go near to him will not be easy for most people. And even those who are able to go near to him, maybe in a courtroom or in his office for whatever reason, will address him as your lordship, right? They won't talk to him normally. And that relationship, even those who get there to that point, is only with a few people. Most other people will probably only see the decisions that he has taken and how it influences them. They will want to be in his good books so that they don't get into trouble. As long as they are in the good books of the CGI and the system that he's protecting in the country, they will not get into trouble and their life will be secure. Okay, that's the general understanding. So most people approach God with that distance. Okay, they're only concerned that they should be safe. They should be in a proper situation, spiritual mukti, where I can not take birth anymore. I don't have to suffer anymore. I don't have to be under illusion anymore. I can be in a state of eternal happiness. My full consciousness is experienced in that state. Most people attain spirituality or obtain spirituality or approach spirituality in that manner. And that is why the default path of karma yoga, jnana yoga takes one in that direction. Now, eventually, by doing all that, if one eventually does come to bhakti, then they get to a position where they go very close to Bhagavan. And even in that going close to Bhagavan, there are different forms. Like I said now, for example, with the Chief Justice, some people may get to interact with him personally. They at least can see him face to face and talk to him. But even there, they cannot very comfortably talk personal things with him. They cannot joke with him. They will only have formal discussions with him. But now think of people in his house. Okay, let's say, for example, his wife or his children. His children won't think of calling him lordship, right? In fact, he also would not want them to call him lordship. If they call him lordship, it will look very awkward. He will feel very awkward. Right? They will want to go sit on his lap. They will want to maybe pinch him. And what for him, for he also wants that they relate with him like that. So for their pleasure, he may roll on the ground, he may crawl on the ground, he may pretend as if they have beaten him. So the way he relates with his own family members, his wife, his children, etc., is very different from the way he would relate with people in his office, even those who are close to him in the office, and even those with whom he has very close official discussions. So you can see the difference, right? In the same way, in bhakti also, within the path of bhakti, those who are close to God also, there is a difference. The people in Vaikuntha, for example, the way they relate with Krishna or Vishnu, there in Vaikuntha he is called Vishnu, Narayana, is very formal. Okay, there they will address him as Lord, Master, Ishvara, Parameshwara. They will always be glorifying the prayers. But the same person, if you go to Vrindavan, for example, in Gokul, Vrindavan, there even he doesn't want to be addressed like that. He will feel very uncomfortable if somebody calls him Ishvara and so on. So if you look at the way how Yashoda behaves with him, or Nanda behaves, or his Gopas behave with him, right? His Gopas will come and climb on his back, right? So do you think, for example, somebody like, say, Uddhava or somebody will climb on Vishnu's back? It's impossible, right? But if you see in Gokul, the Gopas who are playing with him, they will, push him to the ground and say, Krishna, you are a fool. You don't know how to play. They talk to him like that, right? And that is what he wants. That is the most natural form, the most natural intimate relationship he has, right? And that is bhakti. That is called pure bhakti. Bhakti is when we become qualified, we follow the process which makes us qualified to be able to relate with God in that manner, with Krishna in that manner, right? And so the next 6 chapters of Bhagavad-gita will take us into those ideas where we are able to approach Sri Bhagavan in bhakti. And the 12th chapter, the end of the next 6 chapters is the 12th chapter, right? In the 12th chapter, it's called Bhakti Yoga. And there he describes the qualities of a person. The last 8 shlokas of the 12th chapter describe the qualities that he expects in a person who calls himself a bhakta. Okay, so we will go into that beginning with the next week. So today I will summarize by just adding a few points to what we have done. Essentially, the Bhagavad-gita is teaching us this. We should know that the Gita is not about losing what we have. Instead, it is about adding something to what we already have. It's not about subtracting something from our life. It's about adding something. And what is that something? It is adding something good. It's adding something desirable, which makes us happier. By adding the Gita and Krishna to our life, we become happier. And we don't even have to really think when we add Krishna to our life, we don't have to really worry much about removing the bad. First, I will remove all the bad and then I will add the good. It doesn't work that way. The bad leaves when the good enters. That's how it works. In spiritual life, it's not about first cleaning everything and then adding Krishna. It's about adding Krishna first and then automatically the bad goes out. That's how it works. Unlike material progress, spiritual progress is carried forward across lifetime. This is very important to know this because we work so hard to achieve material success. It's not wrong to work hard. We have to work hard in whatever we do. Our duty requires us to work sincerely. But then we go beyond what our duty requires us. Very often our greed drives us to, it pushes us to burn ourselves out, to accumulate money, accumulate property, accumulate fame, accumulate status, etc., etc. We don't think for a moment that we cannot carry this forward. It is going to end. The moment our life ends, all of it is gone. Everything is gone, becomes zero, right? Nothing goes forward from this life to the next life. Nothing, how much ever it is. Not even a small part of it. In the next birth, when we take, let's assume that we get a human birth. If we get a human birth also, we are born with a different identity in a different family. Right? And that family will have may not have any connection to this family. So all the wealth which we earned as something, nobody will recognize that it is our wealth, and even we will not remember it. Right? That is the value of material progress. But spiritual progress is not like that. It's actually Bhagavan has explained in the 6th chapter, like we read now in these 11 shlokas. Even a small amount of spiritual progress In the second chapter, he says, Neha Vikramanashosti Pratyavayo na vidyate. Even a small amount of spiritual progress is not lost. So even doing a little bit, we should feel happy that we have done this much. That will go with us. Of course, we shouldn't stop with that little bit. We should try to make it more to the best of our ability. But even if we are not able to do more, we should not be discouraged. That's the point I'm trying to make. It get carried forward across lifetimes. It will accumulate and it will come back to us. Okay. And this conviction that I'm speaking about now, this is not easy to get. Many of us, when we hear this, it looks unreal to us because, as the Gita and Vedanta explains, that since Anadi time, since eternity, beginninglessness, we have been in this material existence. And therefore, to accept something like this is not easy. But if we are open to listening to this, and if we are sincere and genuine in our intention, then this conviction will develop and we'll be able to see the truth in it. Bhakti is about happiness from a loving relationship, and it is superior, far superior to the happiness that we get from money, power, and knowledge. So I will stop with this for today, and I'll be very happy to take your questions, doubts, or your comments. Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurrukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Anmamavatu Tatvaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.